With all the returning coaches and all the returning talent, the CB and DB room was supposed to be the Legion of Boone. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but this is a business. And in business, you have acquisitions. The question is, are the acquisitions good enough to make you instantaneously better?
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day State Today. We're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more, especially with the NFL playoffs being more exciting than ever. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets. If your first $5 hauler is a winner, make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Meanwhile, we're going to get started in the conversation of Oklahoma State kind of making a lot of moves, obviously clearing out for this new staff. Of course, I have been ranting and raving about how Todd Grantham, I think, is a phenomenal hire who brings in a lot of abilities that I don't think that we've seen in quite some time, if ever, when it comes to connecting with former NFL coaches and SEC coaches, and including some of the SEC talent that we now have filling our roster. The question is, are the DB room and the CBs going to get significantly better? Short answer, I would say, is yes, right? Because when you're ranked 148th in the country in pass defense, you're not going to really have the opportunity to go a whole lot further backwards. And sometimes the complacency of all the returning coaches was not necessarily a good thing. This is a clean slate, right? So all of these individuals that are coming in are going to have the opportunity to have meaningful playing time right away. That does not diminish the fact that we also do return Cam Smith. And we also got guys like Cale Smith that have been very productive in their opportunities when they get back there as well. I think this first and foremost begins with the coaches. The upgrading from the coaches department to me is very obvious. Starting with Jules Montinar, I've already covered him a multitude of times. I think he is one of the biggest gets thus far, no matter what, from coaches, players, staff, it doesn't matter. I think he is the biggest guy that we're going to be able to get on the defensive side of the ball that you'll be able to notice an instantaneous turnaround. Linebackers were the calling card for Oklahoma State this previous season when you factor out Trey Rucker. But Trey Rucker was top 15 in the Big 12 in tackles. And before the injury, obviously, so was Nick Martin. Whenever you're looking at guys like Nick Martin and Colin Oliver, and now you have Lyric Rawls taking his talents over to KU, that was partially because there needed to be a move from safety to linebacker. So who are the guys that are going to be able to fill in? Because we do leave a void with Corey Black. Corey Black statistically was able to do some things this previous season, also being in the top 10 in interceptions for the Big 12 with 3. But we've got to be able to do more. We've got to be able to cause more chaos. And I think Jules Montinar is the dude that's going to make that happen. It's going to allow us to be more aggressive, but I think part of the aggression is that we've brought in guys with more athleticism. We've also brought in guys with a lot more height and skill level with multiple years of eligibility. When you're talking about the coaches outside of Jules Montinar, you also have the upgrade in Greg Brown. Greg Brown was an analyst for Oklahoma State this previous season, and the upgrade actually does make a significant amount of sense because he has a 15-year coaching pedigree in the NFL, performing very highly with the defensive backs. He's produced he's been on 6 different NFL teams that has produced so many all-pro individuals. He's worked with the Saints, the Falcons, 49ers, the Tennessee Oilers, right before they were the Titans, San Diego Chargers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's also served on the Denver Gold USFL staff. His stops have been all over the country at Purdue, Colorado, Arizona, Alabama, Louisville, Mizzou, Auburn, Charlotte, USC, and obviously now Oklahoma State. So I think this is a very good upgrade going from Tim Duffy to somebody like Greg Brown. So the connection here is going to be the fact that he already had a very big name in the industry from all his NFL and SEC connections throughout the course of his time coming up. So going from an analyst to taking over some of the DB roles does make a whole lot of sense for Greg Brown, and the NFL style connections are going to be very worthwhile for Todd Grantham. But Even on top of that, from the linebacker position, y'all know how I feel about Cap DD. I think Ryan McNamara is somebody that can connect with the players to an unprecedented level, but somebody that isn't necessarily getting talked about enough is Keavy Thompson. Keavy Thompson comes over from East Mississippi Community College, where that Last Chance U thing was filmed some years back. While he was there, though, he was able to produce the number 3rd ranked sacks in the country in 2023, and they were number 3 in the country in passing efficiency, defensive efficiency in 2022. He led them all the way to being runner-up in the junior college national championships. Before that, he was at Hines Mississippi Community College, where he allowed his pass defense to be ranked number 1 in the country. His scoring defense was ranked 4th and 18th in the nation for points allowed per game. This was a defense that obviously allowed him to catapult. Fun fact about Keavy Thompson is he also coached at Bethany College. And yes, he did beat my friend's Falcons whenever he was there. He's got a lot of capabilities on the defensive side of the ball. He's coached in multiple bowl games. He does have some NFL connection as well. And he's brought over several guys with him from East Mississippi Community College, including Rashad Bradley, who is ranked the number 3 defensive end in JUCO. We also were able to bring in some defensive backs, which is why we're going to focus on this a little bit right now. So the roster currently looks like this from a safety perspective. Thank goodness gracious we got Landon Cleveland to come back. You have Reed DeQuazy, who is the quarterback going to OU, transitioned to defense, and now is a Cowboy after this previous season. Guys, Jeremy Cook is somebody that we brought in from East Mississippi Community College. That was the dude, 6'3", 200 pounds, coming out of high school, was committed to Arkansas, tried to kind of jump on the Deion Jackson State wave. Something happened there. That's what landed him at community college. And now we get to bring his talent to Oklahoma State with multiple years of eligibility still available. Cam Epps is coming back, 6'2", 205 pounds, former quarterback in high school that I think does read the game a different way, which is why he does have a decent ability to get back and cause some havoc in the back end. David Kabongo, 5'10", 195 pounds. He doesn't play like that. He plays like a beast. He's a ball hawk. He's somebody that you have to pay attention to whenever you're doing film preparation. You also have Cooper Lai coming in. You got Chase Pinkston. I think Chase Pinkston is going to be a big pickup, not just because, his dad, Todd Pinkston, was a big-time college player who ranked number 3 all-time currently in receiving records at Southern Miss. He also went on to the NFL and caught for almost 3,000 yards there as well. Chase Pinkston has that same hands kind of capability, but he has the aggressiveness of a defensive back with some expert-level training that should have him prepared to be a contributor right away. Parker Robertson has proven to be a dude, a dog, and a certified problem for anybody that's underestimating him. Dylan Smith has been able to get in the game action and make some things happen. Ty Williams from Muskogee, Oklahoma. Could this be his time? 6 foot, 205 pounds. He's been able to kind of, wait in the wings and bide his time. Could this be his opportunity? Same could be said for DeKelvin Beeman, who apparently has removed his name from the transfer portal. I think that would be good for him, just like it's going to be good for us to see what Jalen Davies coming over from Oregon and UCLA is going to be able to provide. This is an individual that we've covered that I think will have the ability to start almost instantaneously. So will J.K. Johnson. And I'm not putting down Cam Smith. I think they're going to have to out-battle Cam Smith, and that's not going to be easy to do. But J.K. Johnson comes in after transferring from Ohio State, LSU, having some meaningful snaps this previous season as an LSU Tiger, but obviously not enough for him to feel like he's a big-time contributor. So he's coming over. We still have Kenneth Harris, the Arkansas State transfer. He is now a grizzled veteran. R.J. Lester, 6'3", 185 pounds. He's going to have the ability to provide a lot just from the 50-50 ball standpoint. Jacoby Oliphant, 6'4", 195 pounds. As a true freshman, played a significant amount, especially on special teams. He was instrumental in getting some tackles there towards the tail end of the season. Cale Smith is another dude who's been able to pop out and makes a name for himself and do some things that are a little abnormal. And then you got some high school guys coming up, like Kobe Foreman, to go alongside with LaDainian Fields, who was a freshman that probably should have played a significant amount of minutes this previous season, but he didn't really get enough opportunities because it was being held down by Corey Black. There was some complacency, in my personal opinion, that factored in there. But on top of that, you have Carrington Pierce coming in, and this is a very intriguing pickup for us in Carrington Pierce because he was a basketball standout in high school who had offers to go play basketball. For whatever reason, he just decided that he was going to try his hand at football. Just 2 years ago in college was when he decided, I'm going to try to play football. Coming in at 6'2", 190 pounds. He's also got a brother that is a safety currently at USC. So this is a guy who, when you say the word raw, that is the epitome of raw. He has not figured out what to do, how to do it, where his place is going to be. But this is going to give him opportunities to learn that here at Oklahoma State. You also have Jatavian Pierce, a friend of the show, an individual who turned down Tulane, Ole Miss, Auburn, Penn State to come to Oklahoma State. 3-star dude that is severely underrated from Montgomery, Alabama. He's going to have the opportunity to play, I don't want to say right away, but pretty daggone close. Drayden Fulbright. This is a dude that we haven't talked about enough, from the powerhouse of North Crowley in Fort Worth, Texas, 5'10", 165 pounds. He has the ability to play multiple sides of the ball, multiple spots. He just unfortunately gets undershadowed a little bit, or overshadowed, I guess I should say, because that roster at North Crowley is full, massively loaded with Division I talent all up and down the board. So he's going to be somebody that we need to pay attention to. Aiden Webb, I think, could come in 6'2", 165 pounds and give some people some problems and make some people pay more attention. This whole transitionary period, I feel like, does have Oklahoma State in a phenomenal position. And last but not least, who we cannot leave off here, is Mordecai McDaniel. Not only because we've already covered some of the things that he could do on the football field, but one of the things that I'm not hearing enough about is he is a speed freak, okay? The dude won state in a 55-meter indoor with a 6.48. He runs a 7.1 60-meter. He also qualified in nationals for 8 events, 200-meter, 300-meter, 400-meter, 100-meter outdoor, 200-meter outdoor, 400-meter outdoor, ran a 48 400-meter. This is a very big get for us. And he has a sub 10.8 100-meter dash as well. And he's been able to grow. Coming out of high school, he was like 6 foot, 180, 85 pounds. Now the dude is listed at 6'1", 205 pounds. So the weight training and everything that he's been able to get obviously is what allowed him to get to this position here now. And this is a dude that goes back to the Todd Grantham, Florida recruiting days. A lot of these guys do. They were recruited by Todd Grantham in Florida, committed to Florida, played at Florida at some point in time. And a lot of these coaches have been able to kind of navigate this whole collegiate coaching world somewhat together, which is why I do think this is going to be an upgraded unit from this previous season. Brian Nardo gets a bad rap, but you cannot debate the fact that we were horrendous in the back end when we shouldn't have been. We had the talent necessary, and I think you could argue the depth as well to be productive. But here we are, looking at an upgrade with lots and lots of upgraded potential on this roster right here and now. Shout out to Todd Grantham. I'm very excited for Jules Montinar, Cap DD, Ryan McNamara, and then whenever you're talking about the nickelback position, which is something that Keevy Thompson is going to be instrumental in. This is setting us up for more success. Speaking of setting up for success, you need to make sure you do the same. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're trying to look for success, it might start and end for you with FanDuel. Whether it's the beginning of the game or the final drive in OT to make it happen, FanDuel is going to make your playoff action much more exciting. Right now, new customers can place a $5 bet and get $300 back in bonus bets if your first bet is a winner. That is $300 back in the action to allow you to keep going. FanDuel is the easy app to navigate with a variety of bets that will keep every game exciting. When you win, you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around for the winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or you're just looking to add some extra coin and excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with the 300 bones back in bonus bets with a $5 winning bet. That is with FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com today. Make the NFL playoffs unforgettable with FanDuel, because you already know what it is, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so now we need to take a peek into not just the conversation about Ohio State winning a national title and Ryan Day getting that monkey off of his back, which I thought would be difficult as well. But I think more importantly, we need to have the discussion about Will Howard winning a national title, being the first quarterback in the history of the BCS or the CFP era to start the game 13 of 13. Ended up throwing for almost 240 yards, couple touchdowns, and he had the massive deep dime to basically seal the game up to a true freshman, which is also a conversation in and of itself. But the reason I feel like it's imperative to talk about this is because I would say the Oklahoma State fan base has done a very good job of trying to run guys off that they don't feel like fit the mold or they're not good enough to be starters at Oklahoma State or at this level. Mainly, I've seen in the last couple of years, people have this conversation about Garrett Rangel. And I feel like there is a little bit of a potential comparison here because Will Howard, during the COVID years, right, he was kind of lost in Manhattan, didn't really know what was going on. Then he found that he might have the opportunity to start, but evidently the coaches didn't believe he would be the starter or could be the starter because they brought in Adrian Martinez. So as he's preparing to be the guy, he gets kind of brought down a little bit, and they bring in Adrian Martinez. Adrian Martinez, great with his legs, terrible with his arm. The same thing proved to be true at Kansas State as well. So he eventually got a shot, took him to the Big 12 title game, won a Big 12 title game, and still yet people were in K-State country, mind you, were not really wanting to run him out of town, but they were never super high on Will Howard, even after he won them a Big 12 championship. And then fast forward to the next season, he's the dude, yet they bring in this big-time get that everybody's very excited about. And I agree that Avery Johnson is a bad mamma jamma, and a very solid future is likely ahead of him in Manhattan. But K-State fans, they ran off Will Howard because they were dead set that Avery Johnson was significantly better, and Avery Johnson was going to be able to be the guy that athletically brought them to new heights. The common consensus was Will Howard is okay. He's pretty good, but he's not good enough to win big things and win big games, even though he did have a Big 12 title in hand. That was the large conversation happening around Manhattan is more often than not, the fan base, donors, whatever, they did not believe in Will Howard. So even when he was doing good and he was producing, any downtrodden moment, he was jumped on. So I feel bad for Will Howard, and I said that whenever he went to Ohio State. I was curious to see if he was going to be the starter at Ohio State because it wasn't a guarantee, but he did go up there. He won the job, and there was a couple moments this season where he felt down as well. Obviously, the loss to Oregon, that was pretty controversial, and then losing to Michigan, especially when you're on your way to a national title, which I would say is a little sidebar. I think most Ohio State fans would take a natty while losing to Michigan as opposed to beating Michigan, but losing in the CFP. I could be wrong, but I would imagine that is the case. Yet Will Howard, again, he comes into the national title game after there was moments that Ohio State fans were questioning whether he was going to be good enough to lead them to the promised land as well. Also, I have to give a big shout out to Jim Knowles. Hopefully, this is the next feather in his cap to get his own big-time opportunity, unless he doesn't want to be a head coach, and that might be possibility. He might just want to be a coordinator and be the best defensive coordinator in the country. Well, now that you have a natty under your belt, because Ohio State fans for years have been complaining about offensively, we can keep up with everybody in America. The defense has always been what's letting us down. The defense has always been what's prevented us from winning a national championship. They bring in Jim Knowles, and I think Oklahoma State fans still cheer on Jim Knowles. So it's nice to see him get that, just like it's nice to see what Will Howard did, because I think it does set a little bit of a precedence moving forward. If you're the backup quarterback, right, you typically can understand the lay of the land. You want your quarterback to be a little braggadocious, to be a little cocky or confident, right? You don't want your quarterback, the guy that's supposed to lead the offense through wars, if he's very timid. It's not what you really want. But it's got to be a little bit more than public perception. And I think this is yet another reason why Oklahoma State in general, from a media perspective, should be a little bit more open, upfront, honest from the coaches, talking about the players. Now, of course, you want to keep a decent amount of things close to the vest so other teams don't have the ability to prepare for X, Y, and Z. I get that. But this could be a learning moment, just like we have already discussed. It should be a learning moment for everybody to be somewhat trepidatious about entering the transfer portal, because there's thousands of dudes that get in the portal, yet there's only, 8,000 spots available. So you have 3,000 guys in the portal and only 1,000 spots available. I know, numerically speaking, I'm not dead on, but you get the gist. That is what we've been looking at. And even though that still continues to be a little bit of a problem, you're still having a large number of dudes jump in the portal. So it could be a cautionary tale for guys entering the portal to some degree, but it should be a more cautionary tale to us, the fan base. Like, maybe we should dial it down a notch, because every fan base, for the most part, is always looking at the backup quarterback. I've said this a million times because it's dead honest. The backup quarterback is always the most popular conversational piece for the fan base on the roster, because anytime the starter does something wrong, especially if it's back-to-back games or back-to-back quarters, it is natural for everybody to be like, well, this isn't working out. Why don't we see the young guy? Why don't we see the backup? Why don't we see the other dude? And now you have Will Howard, who got ran out of town by K-State fans. It wasn't negative per se. It's not like they were saying he's the worst quarterback of all time, we hate him. But there was multiple occasions where they were saying that. And their message boards were talking about how he was a waste of a scholarship spot, and he was the worst quarterback on the roster, and there was no need to have him on the roster. I even heard that there was conversations in message boards about potentially moving him to tight end, because he did rush the ball pretty effectively. Even in the national title game, I think he had over 50, 60 yards rushing as well. So there was conversations amongst the fan base about how the dude should be converted to a tight end because he was never going to be a good quarterback. And yet here he is throwing for 240 yards almost, winning a national championship. K-State fans, the joke is on you. And the next time this happens, the joke is going to be on the previous university once again. I know, you didn't win a natty, but Alabama fans probably felt some type of way to see Jalen Hurts go from a mobile quarterback to an actual quarterback at OU. And now he's put himself in a position to do a multitude of things at the next level that are going to continue to raise his brand, his name, which is going to help his university. Speaking of helping universities, sometimes you got to upgrade the dudes that played, especially at OSU. PrizePicks might be the funnest way for you to get involved in the action, because you don't have to do an exorbitant amount of research. You just have to do more than or less than on at least two players, and you got this thing figured out. PrizePicks is going to give you real money on sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's playoffs or regular season action, PrizePicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all of the football season. It's simple. Pick more than or less than on at least two players. And if your pick hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that is dead on, 1,000 times your cash just by making a few simple picks. It's all about getting the Cowboys on track. Of course, we're going to always try to hammer the over and the more than on Tylan Wallace or Tyreek Hill. But you need to get in on your opportunity. Run your game this football season. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is 50 bones just for playing. Do not wait. Take your game to the next level right now with PrizePicks. This is your opportunity to run your game. All right, we're going to shift here again because both the Cowgirl softball squad and the Cowgirl basketball team have a gauntlet to run. The Cowgirl basketball team, thankfully, has a pretty good thing lining up for them because there are currently 4 ranked teams in the top 25 in the Big 12. Oklahoma State has beaten one of them already in Baylor, and the other three we still have to play. So we have this opportunity to take on number 9 in the country, 19-1 TCU tomorrow in Gallagher-Iba Arena. TCU, K-State, they're the top of the class in the Big 12, both at 19-1. K-State's ranked number 10 in the country, right behind TCU. After TCU, we have Texas Tech and Lubbock. Arizona State at Gallagher should win both of those games. Then you have number 16 ranked West Virginia. We have to go on the road to Morgantown to take on the Lady Mountaineers, followed by number 10 in America, Kansas State in Gallagher-Iba Arena. Then we close the season out with Arizona. BYU should be wins. And then we have to go to Salt Lake City to take on Utah. Utah's receiving votes right ahead of us. That would put them at number 29 in America. We'd be at number 31 in America. And then we finish the season Colorado, Cincinnati, KU, which were by and large the bottom half of the Big 12. Currently, the Big 12 goes K-State, TCU, both undefeated, 7-0 in the conference, 19-1 overall in the country. Then it goes Baylor, number 3, 6-1. Their only loss was to us. Then Oklahoma State at 5-2, followed by West Virginia, 5-2. And then Utah's kind of bringing up the rear for the top half of the Big 12. You get past those individuals, you're really going to give yourself an opportunity to win a Big 12 championship. That is what J.C. Hoyt has positioned this Cowgirl ball club to be a part of, is winning a Big 12 title. It is possible. If you beat TCU, it changes the game completely, because then it has a massive circle around the game against Kansas State. It makes the trip to Morgantown, West Virginia, to take on the Lady Mountaineers so much more difficult, but it makes it fun. Just like softball has another opportunity to make a run at the national championship. Beginning the season ranked number 5 in the country by D1 Softball, number 4 in the country by ESPN, and number 4 in the country by Softball America. The beauty of this is the Cowgirls get to take on 12 ranked opponents. So from a strength of schedule, all of that stuff, you're going to want to pay attention to that. And I think that is going to be absolutely massive, primarily because OU and Texas are no longer in the conference. So you need some of those upgraded, capabilities from that standpoint. Now, we do get to play both of them, thankfully, and that is what's going to help elevate us. We played number 2 in the country, Texas. Number 3 in the country, OU. Number 4, UCLA. Number 8, Florida State. We played them twice. Number 9 in the country, Texas A&M. Number 12 in the country, Arizona. We played 3 times, obviously, with the series. Number 13 in the country, Texas Tech. Again, 3 times in the series. Number 14, Nebraska. Number 15, Georgia. Number 17, Alabama. Number 21, Baylor. Again, 3 times for the series. And we also play number 25, ranked Penn State. I think Utah was getting votes as well in softball. So the Murderers Row is not only for Cowgirl basketball, because the 3 ranked teams ahead of us, we still have yet to play, other than West Virginia, who's right next to us, who's ranked number 16 in the country. So between basketball and softball, the Cowgirls have a lot that they have to navigate through to be able to have the opportunity to even get close to hoisting a trophy. But it is a possibility, and you want that. In softball, you want to play all of the best teams in America, because we are a heavy hitter. We are getting pretty close to having blue blood status in softball. If we continue to do what we've been doing the last decade for the next 5 or 10 years, I think you easily could put Oklahoma State softball in the conversation of the current blue bloods easily. National blue bloods, that is the next conversation. And if you win a natty and a Big 12 title, obviously you kind of chop down that tree significantly earlier than anticipated. It would be great to see Coach Kenny Gajewski stay as a Cowgirl. We've got to win. We've got to build a new stadium. And J.C. Hoyt has a legitimate opportunity to win a Big 12 title in basketball. And after this previous season, I don't think any of us could have envisioned that as a possibility. But here we are. And the biggest games that we have to take care of are still yet ahead of us, with a win over top 25 Baylor already in our back pocket. So this is setting up for Cowgirls to have an epic run, not to mention tennis. You can't forget about Cowgirl tennis. They have a national championship level competing team that lost the national championship last year because one of our stars tore ACL at the very beginning, and it really kind of derailed the whole thing. But this is going to be a good year for the Cowgirls, just like it's going to be a good year for all of us. That's all we're going to have for this one. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone hang. Dislike if you don't, that's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast for people out there. The bricks, the bread, the butter, the fountain, the fondue, funny stuff, funky stuff. Do what you do. Hit the star. Leave a review. All right, y'all. Later, taters.